David Barry reporting for Jewish Online Magazine. We're broadcasting from Chabad House of Hedon in London, and our special guest today is Rabbi Overlander. Welcome to Jewish Online Magazine, Rabbi.
Welcome, thank you for having me.
We're here to speak about the LUBAVITCHER Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson. It's his 18th Yahrzeit on the 3rd of Tammuz, and we're going to be commemorating and marking his Yahrzeit by asking Rabbi Overlander some questions about him. So thank you for joining us at Jewish Online Magazine. Did you have the opportunity of ever meeting the Rebbe?
Yes, I used to go every Sunday afternoon. There was a custom of people, we were able to go in front of the Rebbe and receive a dollar bill and a blessing from the Rebbe, and did that numerous occasions. I also met him just before we got married. I didn't really have a private audience, but I received the Rebbe Siddur in order to pray the mincha service before my wedding afterwards.
And what was it like being in his presence?
Well, the Rebbe's presence was very, very, how should I say, awesome, and it was a very holy, spiritual experience. What else can I say?
Why do you think successive American administrations recognised the major role of the Rebbe?
That's an interesting question. Well, I think America, being a country that is based on the idea of individual liberty and freedom and education, playing such a vital role in the moral formulation of society, I think they appreciated the fact that the Rebbe's message was precisely that we need to educate everyone, Jew and non-Jew, in order to be good citizens of society. That's a responsibility, that is a privilege. It's not something that is can be absorbed. It needs to be actually taught by society. And I think the United States appreciated that this is something that the Rebbe had in mind for both Jew and non-Jew. And every year they commemorate the day, Education Day USA, which still goes on, today. Which is literally an endorsement of the concept of education by the contemporary administration, whatever that is, Republican, Democrat, whatever. So Education Day USA is very important. And
there will never be another Jewish personality like the Rebbe that will attract, American presidents to perhaps to give counsel from him.
Well, he did have connections with some of the presidents, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, I believe, as well, George Bush Jr. and Senior. And
it's wonderful Kiddush Hashem.
I believe so. I think so. 100% to see that presidents were able to write freely to the Rebbe. There were letters that went backwards and forwards between personally, especially Ronald Reagan. There were some very beautiful letters between the Rebbe and Ronald. They had a profound, I think, it was a mutual admiration society.
Okay. The Rebbe saw every Jew as family, as having the same background, that of our Avot Dinamot, the patriarchs and the matriarchs, and therefore having the same full potential as them. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a famous story about a certain, I believe it was George Roy actually who told the story. He had an office, or has an office, downtown Manhattan, and he told a story several years ago to the Kinos HaShluchim, the annual gathering of emissaries in New York. And he said that on Yud Aleph Nisan, the Rebbe's birthday, he'd gone into the Rebbe and he told the Rebbe that he had started a new minyan in downtown. I don't know if it was Mincha or it was Shacharis, I'm not sure, but he said it was for minyan for people with no Jewish background. And the Rebbe said, sorry, like he sort of said, pardon, what was that? So he said it again, he repeated it again. He started a minyan as a sort of a birthday present, if you like, for the Rebbe, for people with no Jewish background. Well, the Rebbe paused and said again, I'm sorry. He said, this time, George Roy, he said, one more time he said it. Suddenly he relates how the Rebbe became very serious. And he said to him, I want you to go and tell those people there is no such thing as a Jew with no background. Every Jew has a background of Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, and Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. That is their background. So that sort of fits nicely with this.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it fair to say that virtually every talk he gave, and every letter he wrote, and every directive he issued, the goal was the coming of Mashiach and how to attain the Geula Shlema, the final redemption?
Well, in as far as Mashiach represents the perfection of humanity and the perfection of the world, the Jewish nation and the world, so obviously the Rebbe's everything in a sense that he did in his life was attuned to that end. And in fact that's what he encouraged everybody else to live their lives according to the underlying motive and thesis of helping to bring Mashiach and redemption to the world. So that was something the last few years that he wanted everybody to do. This is not just something, of course the Rebbe himself lived it. He lived that, that message to the supreme, to the nth degree. But it's something that he felt all of us need to be empowered to do.
Why do you think a replacement was not sought for the Rebbe?
Oh, this is a controversial question. Look, there's a famous story about a certain chap who came to a Rebbe, and he said, Rebbe, he said, I had a nightmare, a scary dream, a very strange dream. So the Rebbe said, what was your dream? He said, well, I dreamed I was Rebbe. So the Rebbe said, you know what, I'm not really worried about that dream. He says, why not? He says, look, if the Hasidim were to dream that you would be Rebbe, I would be a little bit sort of concerned. But for you to dream that you were Rebbe, that doesn't, everybody has delusions of grandeur. Being a Rebbe is not something that is imposed on people. It's something that happens through common consent. And the fact that people feel that the Rebbe is still the Rebbe, shall we say, even if not in a physical body down on this, earth. The fact that so many Hasidim and so many followers and shluchim around the world feel that he is still, so to speak, at the helm. The Talmud says about Moshe Rabbeinu, even Ma lahalan omed shamash afkan omed shamash. Just as he served God and served the Jewish people in his lifetime, even after his lifetime, so to speak, he is serving God and the Jewish people. And people feel that he is with us in spirit, just as much as if not more so than when he was physically alive, and therefore feel that he is guided by them, and he is helped by them, inspired by them, and therefore, well, if you have somebody in charge, then if you have a leader, then you don't need another one.
Yeah, that's a very interesting answer. Thank you. That's really interesting. Why do you think the Rebbe didn't ever visit Eretz Israel?
Oh, that's quite an interesting question. Many theories there. He didn't always explain. He didn't explain that explicitly. But some people felt there were a couple of insights. Some people feel he did reply once to, I think it was General Sharon at the time, and he said something to the effect that Rebbe, he said, a general always goes out to war in front of his people, and everybody follows. And I think if it was Sharon, he was obviously hinting that the Rebbe should, you come to Israel, and everybody will follow you.
Right.
And the Rebbe said, look, your analogy is a good one, but there is an exception, and that exception is a sinking ship. A sinking ship, the captain is the last one to get off. And on the contrary, if he gets off, he's considered irresponsible. And therefore, perhaps one could say, if the Rebbe saw diaspora Jewry as a sinking ship, and that it's his responsibility not to run for the safety of and inspiration of the Holy Land, but as somebody to make sure that everybody else would be able to appreciate the importance of going home to Eretz Yisrael, which is, of course, which we all hoped for, which was Mashiach again. So therefore, he would be, in a sense, the last one to go. That's, you know,
yes, yeah.
Apart from the fact that he did mention to a certain Rov who did encourage him to come, that if this Rov would give the Rebbe a psak din, a clear halachic decision that it was absolutely 100% okay for the Rebbe to come to Israel and to leave Israel to go back to minister in outside,
yes,
then fine, he would do it. But of course, this rabbi could make no such halachic decision because there is none.
Right.
The reason we go and come from Eretz Yisrael, we rely on various, how should we say, heterim and various leniencies. But Rebbes don't rely on leniencies.
Thank you for that answer. Thank you. What inspired the Rebbe to create the concept of shluchim around the world?
Well, I think this discussion that we spoke about that of bringing Mashiach, because he wanted to bring Yiddishkeit and reignite Yiddishkeit or ignite Yiddishkeit all over the world. And the Rebbe obviously can't be in every place at once. So, as the Talmud says, Shliach Adam Kumoisai, as an emissary almost takes on the personality of the one who sends, and therefore, by making shluchim all over the world, in a sense, the Rebbe was saying, look, I would like to participate with every community throughout the world, every Jewish community, and therefore, as a shliach, as an emissary of the Rebbe, people do have that connection with the Rebbe himself, and that way, in a way, he wanted to conquer the world with Yiddishkeit through the numerous emissaries that he has and ambassadors all over the world.
It's amazing the success and perhaps people returning to Yiddishkeit from these ambassadors around the world. You know, India or China, Mexico, wherever you are in the world, you'll see a Chabadnik.
And even in Hedon. That's a real chiddush. It's a real novelty.
Can you tell Jewish Online Magazine, Rabbi Overlander, about how people still seek the guidance of the Rebbe through his timeless letters and responses?
Yeah, I mean, as we mentioned before, the Rebbe left a massive legacy of talks, of letters, of video recordings, of audiences with the Rebbe. It's just an enormous body of wisdom of the Rebbe, and people, one of the great Rebbes in Chabad, I'm not sure who it was, perhaps I think the third Rebbe, he said, I'm going above and I'm leaving my writings below to you. So there's just been, if anybody wants to know the Rebbe's view on any particular subject, you can nowadays just Google it, and there's just, so, and then of course there are people who will ask for personal requests. They will go to perhaps the gravesite of the Rebbe himself, they will pray to the Almighty, and they will ask for a bracha, a blessing, that the Rebbe perhaps intercede and bless them for various things that they may need. There's a story of the Rebbe when the previous Rebbe passed away, Rabbi Yosef Yitzhak Schneerson in 1950. Somebody came to the Rebbe, and I'm not even sure the Rebbe was yet Rebbe. It was very early on, and because it was a year until he actually took over the leadership. So this chap, he was very depressed and upset, and the Rebbe said, what are you so upset about? He said, well, when the Rebbe was alive, we're talking about the previous Rebbe now, he said, I always had somebody to write to about, my family simchas, and any time I had a problem, and I would always write to him, and the Rebbe would always answer me, and now I've got nobody to answer. And the Rebbe told him, he smiled, and he said to him, you carry on writing to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe will find a way to answer you. And there have been numerous miracles all over the world as a result of such personal requests, going in. So we continue to write to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe finds a way to answer.
Very nice. The Rebbe perceived the wealth of potential in each and every one of us, and isn't it wonderful that this continues to be one of the themes of Chabad.
The potential of every
Seeing
Jew.
the potential of each and every Yid.
You know, this is something people don't quite appreciate. People say, oh, you know, you guys believe in the Rebbe this and you believe in the Rebbe that, and people are, that we're sometimes taken to task for believing so much in the Rebbe. I think what people have missed is not so much as that the Hasidim believed in the Rebbe, is that the Rebbe believed in the Hasidim. Even though all the Hasidim were kind of simple, ordinary guys, you know, but the Rebbe's unbelievable belief in the power and the ability and the godliness, the source, the well source, the treasure in every single Jew, and that brought it out of people, okay? And that was incredible. You know, belief in other people empowers them and allows them to do their best, even ordinary, supposedly ordinary, simple people. And I think this is an amazing thing. The Rebbe's belief in us, not our belief in the Rebbe. That's, you know, that's standard. But it was his belief in us that was amazing. He had phenomenal belief.
And what would be your message to the viewers of this video, Rabbi Overlander, on the 18th Yahrzeit of the Rebbe?
Well, you know, 18 is Chai.
Yes.
So we should realize, perhaps by divine providence, everything is by divine providence. We should realize that the Rebbe tzaddikim do not, you know, they just don't die. Okay, their physical bodies may be in a certain state, but their lessons, the legacy, are still alive and well. And perhaps we should rededicate ourselves. This idea that the Rebbe is as his teachings are alive. You know, it says that even Yaakov, when Yaakov passed away, and although interestingly enough, the Chumash, the Torah, does not actually say he died, and the Talmud actually says, but they buried him, they mourned him. So the Talmud then answers, yes. He said, well, okay, but since his seed are alive, his children are alive, so too is he alive. And we, the Rebbe's children, he didn't have physical children, but he had spiritual children as disciples, and everybody is considered, if you teach Torah, then they are like your children. So he has many children, and those children, we are his children, and if we keep alive his legacy, then the Rebbe still lives. The Rebbe still lives on. He lives on in this world in a greater measure than before. His message is gradually permeating, getting through, right, to the world at large. And our message is, I mean, I think the Rebbe's message was that we should do our very, very best to ensure the coming of Mashiach, not by sitting passively by, but by going out there, by studying about Mashiach, learning about Mashiach, doing a favor for another Jew, doing whatever you can do to help someone increase in their Judaism, materially or spiritually, and crying out and banging on the table and demanding that Hashem should send Mashiach right now. That's our mission, and the Rebbe gave it over for us to do. So that is what I would urge everybody, if they can do, not to be passive, not to sit around, not to wait. Get out there, be passive, and change the world. You know, one mitzvah at a time.
Rabbi Overlander, thank you for taking the time to speak to Jewish Online Magazine about the Rebbe on his 18th Yahrzeit. Thank you very much.
Pleasure, thank you.